Wow, we have a gut-wrenching update for Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints as they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday Night Football. We're going to break this game down and talk about what the future holds for Carr and the Saints. If you did see the game with roughly 7 minutes left, down 10 points in the fourth quarter, Derek Carr tried to make a heroic throw on fourth down to wide receiver Mason Tipton, and it went through the wide receiver's hands. It would have been a big conversion on fourth down. Honestly, it was a great throw considering the fact that he took a hit, but that hit and the throw itself led to an oblique injury, and Derek Carr had to leave and go to the locker room after he was in the medical tent in the fourth quarter, and you saw backup quarterback Jake Haener finish the rest of the game for the New Orleans Saints. We're going to give an update and let you know what the future holds for him in a little bit. Going into this game, I was hoping that the Saints win, but I honestly was not optimistic. So many injuries were occurring to the offensive line, especially the guards and centers. They literally had a guy from the Jets, Connor McGovern, come in who was just signed this week and play significant amount of snaps at the center position. So we knew the Saints were going to be feeling pressure during this game, but honestly, I was quite surprised that they were able to hold up and actually be competitive and make this game close. I thought Chris Jones was going to absolutely eat the entire game, but the Chiefs defense was still a factor, especially in the first quarter. Now, this first quarter started off great. The Saints received the ball at the beginning, and they marched to the Chiefs' 39-yard line, mainly on this amazing run. That was a run in which it looked like it was going to be tackled for a loss due to some bad blocking, but then Alvin Kamara changed directions. Derek Carr even got in the way and did a block, allowing the Saints to get to that Chiefs' 39-yard line. And this is where Carr made his biggest mistake of the game. He had that pressure coming up inside and he tried to throw it away, but just could not get that much mustard on it. The ball was still technically in bounds, intended to be a throwaway, and the Chiefs defender picked that off. That was a huge mistake because the Saints had momentum on their opening drive, and this is the defending Super Bowl champions. You cannot make many mistakes against this team and expect to win the game. But then we thought, okay, we knew the Saints offense was going to struggle against this great defense. They have tons of injuries on the offensive line, but the Saints defense is highly touted, has not given up more than 20 points all year. They instantly got beat by the Chiefs on the opening drive after that interception. The Chiefs effortlessly marched down the football field. Saints have been having some injuries at their linebacker position, and you saw the Chiefs take advantage of that. Short passes in the middle of the field, leading them to get an easy touchdown at the beginning of the game. The Saints offense struggled all game. I think the play caller, Clint Kubiak, is still trying to run the same plays that he was running in the first 2 weeks and use the same strategy in the first 2 weeks when the Saints had an elite running game. But now that they could barely get a few yards if they're lucky when they run the football, some of the play calling he does is not that effective. And we saw Derek Carr not be able to connect deep with some of his wide receivers. Oftentimes it looked like he was out of sync with the receivers, maybe expecting somebody like Rashid Shaheed to come backwards when he's one-on-one against a corner, and they were just not connecting. You saw 3 and out, runs up the middle to Alvin Kamara, going for no gain, getting set up to a 3rd and long. But there were still a few positive moments, most notably in the second quarter with around 8:30 left. Derek Carr finally connected deep with Rashid Shaheed for a touchdown. That was something that they tried to get going the rest of the game and it just never happened. But you saw Carr look to the sideline at his quarterback coach and say, "I told you," maybe trying to boost the confidence and morale of the team after the interception in the first drive. The Saints offense struggled throughout the majority of the game, and so did the Saints defense. Even though the scoreboard was not that crazy, they gave up tons of yards, and the Chiefs were able to march down the field and get multiple field goals throughout the game. But they had one big play, and it was from the big man Colin Saunders here, the former Kansas City Chief, and that was the interception in the red zone near the goal line. The big guy returned it, took it back multiple yards, and this helped make the game more competitive. 7-16, turnover in the third quarter. And this is a good point. An interception shouldn't be so deflating where it totally ruins the game. I understand Derek Carr threw an interception in his first drive, but you had Patrick Mahomes also throw this pick here. Yes, they had the lead, but at the same time, they were still able to seal the deal, and the Chiefs were able to get a victory even after this turnover. There was a moment when it seemed like the Saints were finally going to turn a corner and make this a real game and perhaps even win this game. At the top of the fourth quarter, Derek Carr gets that touchdown to Foster Moreau. And when you think about it, man, it's 13-16 with just 14 minutes to go. This is a football game. This is a team that could totally beat the Kansas City Chiefs. All they needed was another stop on defense and another scoring drive on the offensive side of the football. Unfortunately, that did not end up happening. Now, I don't want to blame officiating for this game, but there were some suspect calls. There were some PI no calls on passes intended for Rashid Shaheed, and at the same time, some PI calls in benefit of the Chiefs, even though it looked very similar to what happened to Rashid Shaheed. However, this was the biggest ref blunder in the game, and there was no explanation, no replay on the broadcast as to what happened here. Defensive holding was called on Carl Granderson. And think about this, there's 12 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. Yes, the Chiefs are on the 12-yard line of the New Orleans Saints, but the New Orleans Saints, even though they did let the Chiefs march down the football field, had great red zone defense. Prior to this drive right here, they were 1 of 6 defensively in the red zone against the Chiefs, meaning they only gave up 1 touchdown, even though the Chiefs had 6 trips to the red zone. So there was a good possibility that they could hold them to a field goal here and make the score 13-19, still just a 1-possession game. But instead, what happened is on 2nd and 8, you got defensive holding on Carl Granderson here on a run play. The Chiefs run the football and it's supposed to be 3rd and 2, but for some reason we get defensive holding on Carl Granderson, and you had fans post this online trying to figure out what happened. How was their defensive holding, since we didn't get a replay, didn't get an explanation on the broadcast? And you see Carl Granderson there. He doesn't do anything. He just gets blocked and then casually jogs to the running play since it was on the opposite side of the football field. So that ended up giving the Chiefs a fresh set of downs when it could have been 3rd and 2 against a really good red zone defense that had been doing well all day. And instead, it's a fresh set of downs and they instantly punch the football in for a touchdown. And that makes it a 2-possession game in the fourth quarter when it would have only been a 1-possession game if they held them to a field goal. Like I said, Chiefs did play a better game offensively, defensively, better coach, better execution overall. And the Saints offense could not get going. The defense of the Saints was not as dominant as they had been all year. But this just goes to show you that you got to play a perfect game when you play the Kansas City Chiefs, because if it's close, we know they're going to get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to the officiating, and they're also a really good team. So you can't have these critical mistakes. Because the offense was frustrating, you're now having family members getting frustrated about this. Chris Olave's brother, Josh Olave here, posting in the middle of the game 1 target, because Chris Olave only had 1 target, I think, well into the 3rd quarter of the game. And this is, I don't know which one is the brother here, but he's also, he's clearly pictured here with Chris Olave. And it was frustrating to see because Carr did connect with Chris Olave early on in the game on a decent comeback route. And I just felt like the Saints kept trying to run the ball up the middle for 2 yards and then deep play action and hope that Rashid Shaheed or Mason Tipton, the 4th-string receiver, comes down with the football. And that did not work out time and time again. I wish they would have tried to get the ball to Chris Olave on some shorter patterns. I don't know if that was Clint Kubiak. I don't know if that was the strategy. Was Chris Olave not open? But Derek Carr was asked about this, and he gave a response as to Olave's lack of targets.
It's not from a lack of me wanting to throw it to him. I tell you guys all the time. Everyone knows I want to throw it to Chris. Chris knows I want to throw it to Chris. He's an unbelievable player and an unbelievable person, a good friend. So I love him to death, and I never want that day to happen for him. But those 2 plays right there would have felt a lot different.
So the effort was there, but it seemed like the Chiefs obviously took away the best wide receiver on the New Orleans Saints, took him away so he couldn't be part of the game plan. And this is sort of some of the argument for the Saints to acquire Davante Adams, since they have been one of the top teams in the news for the Raiders' star wide receiver. It's because when teams eliminate Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, kind of only a one-trick pony. Rashid Shaheed really not only this week in this game, but also in these previous weeks against the Eagles and the Falcons, really does not do a good job at contested catches. And it seems like Shaheed has his best catches when he has clear separation, like we saw on that long bomb touchdown. Other than that, he hasn't been able to be as productive as Chris Olave. If you added another target in this mix, somebody who could get those yards, those 10-yard gains when Olave is double, triple covered, then I think this offense would be more productive. But with this new Derek Carr injury, doesn't seem like a Davante Adams move could happen. After the game, Derek Carr was blunt about his injury.
Can you describe how you're feeling now?
Not good, but we'll get a MRI and all that kind of stuff tomorrow and figure it out. But for me not to be out there with my guys, no matter the situation, it takes something. So
Derek Carr is one of the toughest quarterbacks in the entire NFL. You saw him last year tough it out with broken ribs. So this injury must have been a big problem for him to not be able to enter the game. And now you have it. This just released really like 10 minutes ago before I recorded this video. According to Ian Rappaport and Mike Garofalo, Derek Carr is expected to miss multiple games with an oblique injury he suffered against the Chiefs. And the Saints have 2 games in 9 days. They're playing this Sunday against the Buccaneers at home, and then they play on Thursday Night Football against the Denver Broncos. So this is devastating for Derek Carr. I thought aside from the interception in that first drive, you saw him give his wide receivers opportunities, even with all the backups on that offensive line, and it just didn't come together and it just didn't work out. And despite all the problems that the Saints had in this game that they had to battle with and deal with, they really did still have an opportunity at the top of the fourth quarter to make this a game and perhaps even win this game. And it does suck that Derek Carr is not going to be able to play right away to erase this bad game, but there is an opportunity that he does suit up. Mike Garofalo says Derek Carr is as competitive as they come, so he'll push to play. But the thought is the Saints doctors and athletic training staff will take the decision out of his hands as his oblique injury is significant. So this must not be that good if the Saints trainers are not going to let Derek Carr play, even though he's going to push to play. And, last year he did play with some broken ribs, and Dennis Allen, the head coach, admitted that Carr was not healthy, and part of the reason why the Saints offense started really clicking in the second half of the season last year is not only because they built chemistry, but because Derek Carr was healthier after having those rib fractures in the middle of the season. So this really sucks. This is super disappointing. And it also sucks because we knew this could be a possibility entering this game against a tough Chiefs team when he got multiple offensive linemen injured. And now the starting quarterback, the franchise quarterback, is set to miss the next 2 games. And quite frankly, this has been the hardest stretch of games for the New Orleans Saints. After this, it was supposed to be more smooth sailing. You had the Cowboys in week 2, the Eagles in week 3, Falcons in week 4, and then the Chiefs in week 5. That is a tough stretch of games right there. And now you're playing some slightly easier teams with the Buccaneers, Broncos, Chargers, and Panthers coming up for the Saints. Now, Jake Haener did fill in for Derek Carr when he went down, and Spencer Rattler, the 5th-round pick rookie quarterback, has been the emergency 3rd-string QB throughout the entire season so far. So I'm a little surprised to see Mike Garofalo say that the rookie 5th rounder Spencer Rattler is a strong candidate to get the start in Derek Carr's absence, sources tell him in Rap Sheet. And that's a little interesting to me because you would think that if he was so in line to be the starting quarterback right away when Derek Carr gets injured, you would think that Spencer Rattler would have been the 2nd stringer and not Jake Haener. So we'll see what the Saints end up doing here. Are they going to start Spencer Rattler? Are they going to go ahead and let Jake Haener be the starting QB, considering the fact that he went in the game when Derek Carr was injured and seems like he was in line to be the starting QB. And this does suck because even if Spencer Rattler has a little bit of success, it's going to start some type of QB controversy with the New Orleans Saints. The media is going to be all about that. Even though when you look at this past game, aside from the interception in the first quarter, I don't think there's too much that you could put on Derek Carr here. I think he made some good throws, made some good plays, helped him be competitive towards the top of the fourth quarter. Yeah, there were some mistakes, but there are some errors all around this team, and the offensive line was literally at their worst point they've been at this entire season. Like we mentioned earlier, the Davante Adams situation seems more and more unlikely. Derek Carr is missing a couple games. We don't know his full health status. Hopefully he's able to get back quickly, and then they could facilitate a Davante Adams trade to the Saints. And also Aaron Rodgers and the Jets, their head coach just got fired. Doesn't seem like Davante Adams will go to the Jets now. So who knows where he's going to go. We'll see how Spencer Rattler or Jake Haener does this upcoming week. It could cause fans to be wishing they had Derek Carr and appreciate him even more, or it could start a QB controversy. Either way, I think that the New Orleans Saints are a smart organization. They don't get swayed by fans and all the chaos out there in the media. I think they'll make the smart decision, and regardless of what happens over these next 2 games, Derek Carr will be starting against the Los Angeles Chargers. Subscribe to me, Wi-Fi Willie, for more NFL content. Peace out, and I hope you have a good one.